So here's where we are, 1415, and the English King Henry V has decided to take a small army over to France and do a little bit of raiding and pillaging. He's had some decent success, but now they're heading back to English-held Calais so that he can take his army home for the winter. The English are very tired and very hungry, so the French army easily overtakes them and places themselves between the English army and the coast. So these are the numbers that we're looking at. These numbers are highly debated, so I'm using the ones that Historia Civilis used because he's got the most credibility. So the French, we're looking at 2,400 cavalry, 7,600 infantry, 4,000 archers, and 1,500 crossbowmen. The English have no cavalry, 1,000 infantry, 5,000 archers, and 0 crossbowmen. And the English army wasn't this weirdly lopsided when they got into France. This is just what they have left. So the English want to get through the French in order to get to Calais, so the armies set up on either end of a field. It's just a grassy field with heavy tree thickets on both sides. The English set up a single line because they have no men, with the archers on the wings protected by spikes and the heavy infantry in the center. The French, having more men, are able to set up 3 lines. They put their archers and crossbowmen in the rearmost line, and their cavalry is in the front line on the wings as well. At this point, neither army wants to make the first move. The English are in a very good defensible position, but defensible positions are only defensible if people are attacking you, and the French don't want to move because they have reinforcements trickling in, and the French have plenty of food coming in as well, and the English don't, and winter is coming. But because the English are running out of food, they end up having to make the first move. The archers pull up their stakes, and the entire line, archers and infantry, begins to advance forward, and then they replace their stakes in such a position that the French front line is now in range of their archers. This is the only period when there might have been long arcing bow shots at the Battle of Agincourt. So the English, rather Welsh longbowmen, start dropping some shafts in among the cavalry, and the cavalry are not big fans of this, especially because their own archers are out of range of these archers. So the cavalry decides to advance, and as soon as they're in actual range of these Welsh bows, they take incredibly heavy arrow fire. So some of the units attempt to retreat while others continue to advance, and this starts creating a quagmire of mud in the middle of the field. The cavalry regroups a little bit to the sides and decides to launch a full cavalry charge against the archers, either unaware of the stakes or unaware of what the stakes can do, and the first wave of French cavalry impales all of their horses on the spikes, causing the horses behind them to panic and run straight backwards towards the French line and trample a whole bunch of the French infantry. So then, still under heavy arrow fire, the French first and second lines regroup infantry, and they decide to advance, and the stakes that the English placed on the wings work just fine. They funnel the infantry towards their own heavy infantry in the center. Now, the French infantry still heavily outnumbers the English infantry, so they are slowly pushing their way forward, but these Welsh longbowmen have about 3 hours where they can shoot into the sides and backs of these infantry, and they help themselves. They have a grand old time, and then they use up all of their arrows, and they start grabbing swords and going in. It's not only so desperate that the archers are putting their bows down and picking up swords, but the English king actually gets involved in hand-to-hand combat and allegedly takes an axe blow to the side of his helmet. Oh, and keep in mind that this French infantry is trying to work its way through this horse soup that their cavalry has left for them. One of the French units attempts to withdraw slightly in order to regroup, and an English unit immediately pours into the gap. A lot of the French commanders were dead at this point, and it created pandemonium, and a lot of the French units began surrendering, whilst the others fled back towards their own line. At this point, the English send a letter to the French line that says, "Surrender or be destroyed," and then the English begin slaughtering their French prisoners. According to the English, this is because the French were advancing again and they didn't have enough men to protect the prisoners and their line at the same time. According to the French, it was a calculated tactic to attempt to intimidate the French. Regardless of the reason, it worked, and the French left, and the English went to Calais.